Hello, 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 and welcome back, most of you, for our third webinar in the webinar series, The Power of Sourcing. My name is Adrian Kolf, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Matcher, co-founder of Pantala, and I'm also an investor in HR tech and a public speaker. But most importantly, I will be your host today and for the next few webinars as well. Now, before I announce our third speaker, let me tell you a little bit more about what we do with Matcher. Because with Matcher, we provide embedded talent teams to fast-growing companies. So we work for companies like TikTok, Booking, Stripe, and Revolut, and Miro, but also for smaller startups that don't have any recruitment capabilities in-house yet, like Temper. And we do that by providing dedicated sourcing and dedicated recruitment teams, or the combination of the two. And our clients pay us a fixed monthly fee per dedicated resource. This allows them to stay flexible and allows them to stay flexible in their resource allocation and also cut out expensive agency fees. The reason why I'm sharing this is because, hey, maybe you're hiring and you could use our service, and then we would love to get in contact with you. So please feel free to reach out to any of us to schedule an introduction conversation. A little bit of backdrop. This is the third webinar series that we launched because we started during COVID. And the reason for this, because sourcing is at the core of many of the work that we do, is that we wanted to learn from the best sourcing thought leaders out there. So we thought, why not organize a webinar series, invite them to speak for us, but give back to the community. And this is now materialized that we have over 1,400 subscribers. We had over 2,000 views in the last two webinar series. And this is really becoming a thing in the sourcing community. And I'm extremely grateful and humble for the speakers that we've been able to attract. So if you don't follow us yet, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, or subscribe to our newsletter. You can find the links in our description. And that gives me also the room to introduce our third speaker, Kaio Jardin. Hey, Kaio, so good to see you and welcome on stage.
Really good to see you too, Adrian. It's really good to see you back.
Yeah, and the reason why we say back, because I had the honor and privilege to see Kaio in person at TRC, the Tech Recruitment Conference that we organized in November last year, where Kaio was one of our keynote speakers. And Kaio, you were probably one of my favorite speakers out there. So when I heard you speak about the work that you've done at Zoop, I was like, can you also explain what you've been building, what you've been doing for our sourcing community? And therefore, I'm very glad and grateful, because I know you're super, super busy and just started in a new, very exciting role, to have you today here and share your knowledge with our sourcing community.
No, it's totally my pleasure.
Kaio, is it true that you hired over 2,000 engineers in 1 year without any recruitment background?
That is totally true, and I don't even know how I did it. No, I'm
Awesome.
just kidding. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we did that today.
Awesome. Amazing. Kaio, before I put you on stage, guys, if you have any questions or any comments, please type them in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay in the comments coming through, so we're going to collect all of them at the end of Kaio's presentation, but please get this as engaging as possible. And let's start with asking you, type in the chat, where are you from and where you're dialing in from, because we would love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, Kaio, good luck, and the floor is all yours.
Hey everyone, it's an honor to speak to you today. Matcher is a great partner, and I'm really happy to be here again. Today, I'm going to talk about sourcing, or the 11 quintessential abilities that differentiate an ordinary recruiter from an exceptional talent acquirer. I'm Kaio Jardin, as you already know that, and I'm the Business Development Director for Zoop. Currently, I'm focused on business development and specifically on international expansion and market intelligence. But until recently, I served as the talent management director for the company. So that's why I used to work with recruitment so far. We can connect totally with LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there. So just to give you a short background of myself before we begin, I've been working closely with Zoop since the company was around 40 employees when I started working in the venture capital industry. That was when I first met Zoop, and I joined the company as an investment analyst at the time. After that, I founded two tech startups that wasn't as successful as I expected. I had one small exit and the other company failed. After the second company failed, I received a call from one of the Zoop founders that invited me to become their head of growth marketing at the time. I thought that was a very unique and exciting opportunity to work in a company that was growing really, really fast. So obviously I said yes, even though at that point I didn't have a lot of expertise in the marketing area. A couple of years later, a little less than 2 years later, to be more specific, I pivoted my career to HR within Zoop, which was something that was really good to connect with my passions and beliefs that people are actually the fuel in the engine for changing the companies and the world itself. And right now, maybe a little less than a couple of months ago, a little less than 2 months ago, I shifted to becoming a leader to the global expansion of the company, and I'm dealing also with market intelligence here within Zoop. So just to give you some more context about Zoop, the company is a tech consulting firm that's based in Brazil and has been growing constantly since 2012. As a consulting firm, actually our business model is pretty simple. We have a number of people that are working on projects for a certain number of hours. These hours are priced, so they have rate cards. And when we multiply those three variables, we have a revenue model. This is why Zoop's business model is mostly based on recruiting and retaining talent. Finally, just to give you an idea of the scale of our growth, between 2018 and 2021, we've experienced a period of hypergrowth where we've increased our hires by an average of 84% year over year, with over 2,000 hires in 2021, being 87% of them developers or software engineers. This made us the third biggest tech recruiter in Latin America at the time. In 2022, though, our growth actually slowed down a little bit, and we did not experience the same level of expansion as you will see that this presentation has a lot of text, or at least more text than I'm used to put on presentations. And the reasons that I wanted you to feel used to understand that this will be available on YouTube, and you can check back at any time, but also feel free to print screen whatever you feel that's useful for you. So, sourcing is quintessential, but what is quintessential exactly? The word quintessential is used to describe something that is often considered to be the best or most representative of its kind. For example, one might describe a classic novel as the quintessential example of its genre, or a person who is the quintessential leader. Some might say that Pelé was the quintessential football player, or Steve Jobs was the quintessential entrepreneur. And I believe that sourcing is the skill set that leads to that higher level of quality for any particular talent acquisition professional. And the reason, it's pretty simple. Even in companies with a strong recruiting culture, sourcing will always be necessary. Even if everyone in the company interviews well, and therefore in this fictional scenario, in this fictional reality, there will be no need for recruiters because everyone in the company recruits very well. There will always be a need to have someone analyzing, understanding, and reaching the market. And though the reason to be quintessential is very simple, becoming essential might not be the simplest of the tasks. People usually tend to oversimplify sourcing as the task of finding people to job positions, usually through LinkedIn. And that's not wrong, but definitely that's not right at all. Sourcing skill set is created based out of a generalist point of view and has a huge journey to accomplish. And when you look to a sourcer's job to be done, the idea of job to be done, it is probably to find a candidate that fits the business needs, that likes the job description enough to be inclined to accept the offer as fast as possible. But the journey, when you understand what are the tasks to get the job to be done, you understand what I meant by oversimplifying. There are a lot of small steps to get there. First, a sourcer needs to understand what he needs. What are the skills that he's looking for or she is looking for in this job description? And especially, what are the key skills for the position? Am I going to focus on tech skills such as Java, Kubernetes, and AWS all together? I'm focusing on tech skills, but please don't forget soft skills as well. After I know what I'm looking for, where do I find it? What are the companies that have similar positions and similar profiles to the position I'm looking to fill? Or are there universities that graduate people with tendencies to perform well on such a job? Or even, is there any other professions that might be similar enough so I can propose someone to do a career transitions in positions that are not so easy to find on the market? After that, where do I search for it? What are the channels and ways I have to find those potential candidates? Are there active or passive channels or ways to find these people? Are there job boards, or is there anyone on my contact list that could give me an information of someone that could fill this position? Did anyone referred anyone that could fill my position, or did anyone apply to that position? After, how do I search for it? What are the keywords in my Boolean search that might make things easier for me when I have to search for this person? What do I say when I find? I mean, I have to convince this person to keep talking to me in just a few words. So how can I be so compelling and concise that in just a few words I convince this person to keep talking to me? And how do I evaluate? After I've moved this person from the internet to a real conversation or to a remote conversation, whatever feels best for your reality, how do I use this 30 minutes or 1 hour to sell the company, sell the team, sell the position, and also evaluate even superficially this person's hard skills and soft skills? But not only doing that two-way approach of evaluating and selling, but how do I convince? I'm not only selling, but I have this 30 minutes to evaluate and to convince that this person needs to follow on this conversation with me. And who can help me from there? That is probably one of the last steps, but not the least one. Who will help me when I completed all these tasks? It looks like the simplest part, but it definitely isn't, because people will always be people. And we know that sometimes colleagues and hiring managers might not have the same sense of urgency or assessment as you do. So this passage is extremely important to facilitate the end result. And when you get to see everything the sourcer do to get the job done, you realize that his job description is much similar to an entrepreneur's, a salesperson's, or a hustler, rather than from someone working in a regular human resources position. To do such a job, as you can see, sourcing has the wildest variety of skills to get the job done. And this is how I would summarize them. Market analysis, marketing, data, and growth hacking working closely together, sales pitching, assessment, relationship and networking, and obviously we're going to get further into it. First, focusing a little bit more on market analysis. When it comes to sourcing top talent, it is crucial to first analyze the market to have a good head start on your strategy. I'm assuming that you already did an amazing job understanding what are the soft skills position during the hiring sync. So that said, you're by understanding if the skill set is actually available in the market. Because if not, you have to negotiate that with a hiring manager. When the skill set needed gives you a very restricted market in terms of potential candidate, you will probably struggle with your time to hire or even with compensation. So keep that in your minds and the hiring manager's mind since the beginning, so both of you are not surprised during the selection process. Second, after you understood what skills you need, it is time to identify which companies and universities have a reputation for producing highly skilled individuals in the field you're looking for to fill. This initial steps helps you to narrow your search, ideally, and focus on the most prominent sources of potential candidates. But don't underevaluate, so this is my important tip, don't underevaluate the power of undiscovered talent. There are a lot of talent in small and less well-known companies that could be extremely valuable for you. And we tend to focus on the ones that have something special on their CV, a logo that we know. But usually you can find really good people there as well. After you understood where you can find them, you can always go one step further analyzing the market trends. From the companies I'm trying to steal talent from, are they growing? Are the areas I'm looking for talent getting bigger? What are the companies that this company is stealing talent from? Could these companies they are stealing talent from also be another source of potential talent? I know this is not something that is 100% data driven. It will also be something based on gut feeling, but word of mouth also plays an important role here. You can use data that usually will be based on LinkedIn talent sites. I'm sorry to say, but I don't know any other platform that can substitute LinkedIn talent site. I think it's one of the few in that the word of people that are in the company you are sourcing and listen to what they have to say. They might give you extremely useful insights on how to best approach people there. They will give you insights on how the company is going, what's going on there, if there are anything that you can leverage your sales pitch from it. Second, marketing also plays a key role on sourcing. But I believe, getting back here, marketing also plays a key role in sourcing. But I believe that unifying with data and growth hacking concepts makes it even more powerful. Marketing itself might be useful by understanding keyword basics and the various channels through which you can reach potential candidates. But these two combined with Boolean search techniques will give you enough resources to find whoever wants to be found on the platforms available for passive and active sourcing candidates. But if you want to sophisticate a little more, data analysis would be crucial. It allows you to identify the most efficient channels for reaching potential candidates and helps you to track the progress of your effort. By analyzing data, you can make informed decisions on how to improve your sourcing strategy and increase your chances of success. So let's say you need to hire senior developers and you have 3 levels or 3 layers of data available on your channels. Number of leads generated per position, for example, percentage of conversion rate, and from candidate to hire, and time to hire. Depending on what you need, you could define what channel you'd prioritize. If you need a faster approach, maybe looking to applications would be a good option. If you need higher quality and lower quantity, maybe GitHub could be your channel. But if you have an undecided hiring manager, that happens almost never, LinkedIn could be a good strategy since it puts you in the middle of everything. Of course, almost always you're going to combine multiple channels on your strategy, but I think you got the idea on how to prioritize it. And last but definitely not least, test hypotheses and find new possibilities to do whatever you do in different ways. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. There are probably thousands of potential channels you haven't tried. So think outside of the box and understand that you will fail more than you will succeed. But as soon as you start stacking up successes, you will see the results coming to you. Maybe Facebook ads will work for you better than you thought for some positions. Maybe you can automate candidate interaction with Zapier. Or even maybe you can use Phantom Buster to scale the way you do market research and talent mapping. You just need to keep trying. and trying new stuff and see what's going to work better for you. I'm going to derail a little bit from the center of our presentation to go further into growth hacking and testing hypotheses, since it's probably the way we have done quite a lot here at Zoop. Growth hacking bases a lot of its idea on creating an experimentation culture where you generate hypotheses, prioritize what you're going to test first, then you test it, and then you analyze the results. And obviously, the cycle starts all over again. So to get deeper in the example, I'm going to show you an ideal hypothesis testing structure. So to start generating hypotheses, first you need to define what problem or challenge you want to face. In this case, I'm going to use the fictional scenario of I'm not finding good candidates as an extremely broad example. Now that you know what challenge you want to face, you start generating assumptions about why that is happening. Maybe I'm not searching with good keywords to generate potential candidates. Maybe no one is referring to me because maybe my coworkers don't know I need referrals. Or even maybe I'm not publishing this job in a lot of job boards, so people don't even know this job position exists. After you get assumptions, you can start focusing on generating hypotheses to test if your assumptions are correct. I'm going to focus only on the first assumption and create just the first hypothesis, focus on the first hypothesis. So we can test different Boolean searches and see how they go. But what if we test 3 different ways of searching and see what performs best? And in our example here, we tested 3 different ways and we used a base case. The first one was 4% lower in terms of potential candidates, the second one 4% better, and the third one 22% better. So we're going to probably keep using the third one. I think you got the idea on how to structure it. So it is to test this hypothesis as fast as possible and verify if they prove successful or not. If they don't, as you saw on the first test, then you learn a new way on how not to do it. But when it does work out, it is time to scale. And it's time to apply what you've learned to whatever you do similar in the future. I'm going to tell you one of the stories I'm most proud of. Even though it wasn't the one we had the best direct results, it was a breakthrough to us in terms of learning and indirect results. Hiring people from diversity groups is always hard, and it was very hard for us to find diverse information on recruitment tools such as LinkedIn. So I was talking that we were struggling to fill our diversity positions in Zoop with a third-party contractor that was a partner from us, a tech startup in Brazil that's called Indata. And they told us how they were thinking on doing and developing a new strategy to focus on diversity groups using Facebook ads and Instagram ads to target people through their ads demographic tools that were much better and much more powerful than recruiting ones. They had much more layers in terms of demographic information there. Since we had no one on the team that had that specific skill at the time, so in our team, not only in Terra team, but in our team, we've invested in a partnership together to start creating what we call the hyper-contextualized ads for our diversity or minority groups job positions with content, text, and images that could be relatable to the minority group that we wanted to hire. And we used real-life examples on how it was that to work in Zoop as a female tech lead when we were working on a female tech lead position, on a job position. So whenever a person that was looking for a female tech lead job position, they would find female tech lead text, female tech lead images, and female tech lead social proofs there that were actually living and working with Zoop. So that was the way we did this hyper-contextualized advertising and landing pages. Because of its success, this specific test became a constant way of hiring diversity for Zoop. And since 2019, when we started this initiative, we saw a 58% increase in diversity representativity in the company. As I said before, we didn't hire a lot of people that applied through this channel, but it was extremely important in terms of employer branding and positioning ourselves as diversity champions. And that made actually much easier for us when we contacted people from minority groups, since most of them already knew us because of our ads. So I think this is something that we are really proud to have done in the past. Moving from marketing to sales, once you've identified potential candidates, we know that we want to talk to them, but we don't know if they want to talk to us. So it is important to have a solid sales pitch prepared to engage them and to make them interested in the opportunity you are offering. But when thinking about sales, it's important to remember that you're moving your leads through a funnel, and every step of the funnel has an objective. Your first objective is not to hire someone, it's to move one person from prospect to lead. It seems very obvious and simple, but it's not. So the smallest move from moving from one step to another actually needs to be carefully thought and ideally should be designed specifically for each individual. No one likes random and broad messages. Invest time in designing the copy of your first message, because if you don't engage them, you might not get a second chance with that same person for the next months. And if you're able to know if they're actively searching for new opportunities, or if they're happy in their current position, or if there's something on their profile that you can use as a hook to grab the candidate's attention, use that, since you might not get a second chance. Use that wisely. And either if you're messaging someone or already talking during an interview, understand that your EVP, your employee value proposition, is not static and should not use one EVP statement to everyone. Your company has an amplitude of value propositions that can be and must be adapted and used to a candidate's moment of life. This could include highlighting the benefits of the role, the company culture, and any unique perks or incentives that sets you apart from your competitors. But understand all the possibilities your company bring to you and use that in your favor, remembering that every person is a different person. I also brought here a good example on how we've adapted our sales pitch in a specific situation. In the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of companies were actually laying off by the hundreds. We created what we call an operation that we call Operación Casa de Papel, or Money Heist Operation, inspired by the Netflix series that most of you probably have already watched or heard of. It was a very structured process to attract people that worked in the companies that were firing people. Of course, we prioritized the ones that were fired to our positions, but we knew that it was also a good moment to try to attract from companies that usually retain well their talents. Since we were in a moment of growth when everyone else was preparing for the worst, we could do something different out of it. So we created a 5-step process that worked in this way. As soon as we knew that a company was firing, someone from the talent hacking team, a data engineer, would run a script to gather all LinkedIn profiles from that company and put it on an Excel spreadsheet. After it, the sourcer, together with the developer, would classify which ones we would like to message in order to attract for our positions. After, another one of our sourcers, together with our marketing team, we had actually, at that point, we had someone working with marketing directly in our talent team. So someone from sourcing and a marketing analyst would work together to start a conversation, and the messaging was not something that you would expect usually. We would send them actually a comforting message to open the conversation. Something like, we saw that your company is firing people. Are you okay? Do you have any friends that need help to find new positions in the market in this moment? Is there anything that we can do or in from your family at the moment? So we were not to get them, actually for them to ask us for help or to give us the opportunity to help them. This specific movement gave us amazing response rate that were higher than 50% and opened us a possibility to talk to them and to invite them for the interviews with the recruiters, which was the step further. So after we moved them to the recruiters, there was the selection process. And after the selection process, obviously, we saw the results. From over 7,000 people that we've mapped, we sent message to a little more than 1,000 of them. Over 600 have answered, so a little bit higher than 50%. And 64 were hired. An operation that had amazing conversion rates and obviously very good hiring results. Moving from sales pitch to assessment. So we've moved these people to a conversation. The next step is to assess the potential candidates during usually a phone interview or a person-to-person interview. First of all, remember that you're always being assessed as well. Hiring is a two-way process. What I'm going to talk here right now, it's not science. This is something that I believe and what I like to do. I like to use the first part of the conversation to address the broad part of the sales pitch, independently of what stage of the process we are. So if it's a phone screen, if it is a cultural fit interview, if it's a tech interview, if it's the offer moment where we're gonna talk about the offer, I usually like to sell in the beginning because I think this makes the conversation more interesting. And even if I understand our culture works like this or like that. With that, I can reinforce the good side of working for us and create the ideal brand on their minds. Second, I try to, this is a little more science than just the perspective. Try to standardize your evaluation process to facilitate scaling. Prepare your assessment in the level of depth you think you need and as standardized as possible. From this tip, you probably get two main outcomes. One, you reduce room for improvisation, so you make things faster and easier for scaling. And two, you reduce potential inefficiency and mainly bias, which helps us a lot in diversity and minority hiring. And third, some of you might not agree with me, but sourcers should be technical. I do not agree with the idea, but the reality is that usually companies hire for technical skills. And this is the reality that we need to face. Most of the companies hire for technical abilities rather than soft skills. And usually they fire because of soft skills, but we're not going to get into this discussion. So a good sourcer should focus on that and to develop these technical skills and speak like one of your candidates. That is the best way to dress to impress. The outcome on the candidate side will be most of the times positive. If the sourcer knows this much about the technical part, imagine what the business and the technical team could do. So this is something that we could expect out of this investment. And finally, invest on relationships. Within the company, prioritize who potentializes your results. If you can, hack the company system. And I'm obviously not saying literally, since sources usually take care of the first part of the selection process, they will always have recruiters as partners. Understand who are the recruiters and technical interviewers that potentializes your results and actually take good decisions. Prioritize them, and you will prioritize them when you have good candidates on your hands, and you probably also have you will have good results. Create a win-win situation so everyone can benefit from it. And mostly be open about the partnership you're creating and what you expect from them. Remember that people will always be people. Outside of the company instead, create a connection with the candidate. From the moment you move your candidate from your care to someone else's care on your team, there are millions of possibilities on what can happen. So create a connection with the candidate so he or she can bring you real-time feedback on the selection process. Or even if the selection process doesn't go well, this person can become a future lead for future positions that will be open in a future scenario. I didn't use numbers on the presentation, but if you remember well, I said that there were 11 quintessential skills. And if you counted well, we've discussed only 7 of them. That's because I split it in 2 categories. The 7 above are the ones I believe are essential for a high quality sourcing job. And the ones below are the ones I believe that create that extra, the killer differentiation for the long run. First, report, because you don't have to only be good. You have to also look good. Remember to show off your process. And you can do that by presenting marketing data for your hiring sync. Or maybe you can show how well your candidates are converting on offers. And focus on the value you generated. But honestly, think that hiring managers and your leaders are usually concerned about 2 things: speed and efficiency. And usually that can be translated in 2 KPIs: time to convert and win rate. Have those KPIs on your site, and that should be enough to keep them happy. There's also an important tip. Obviously, this varies from company to company, but report and show off your metrics from time to time. It doesn't need to be every time. Every time you're in front of your hiring manager or leader, choose wisely the moment to make clear to your peers, to your leaders and hiring managers on what consists your job and how well you're doing. I'm gonna just put something that's off script. People usually don't know the difference between a sourcer and a recruiter. So this is also a way to teach them what you're doing. I'm definitely not the best person to advise on that, but automate. I don't actively source for the past 3 years, but I know that automation is the key that opens the doors to the future. There are thousands of tools to automate your job, and I've brought just a few of them that I know that are free and that you could start using right now. Phantom Buster can help you to scale LinkedIn instructions. LinkedIn Helper can automate you to LinkedIn actions. Contact Out can help you to get candidate phone numbers and emails. Calendly can facilitate interview scheduling. Multi-highlight Chrome extension can make easier for you to find keywords on resumes or web pages. ChatGPT, which is the buzz of the moment, can help you to create easy assessment templates that can be replicated easily. And I'm sure there are thousands of other free and paid tools that can help you to do your job faster and better. So invest time on searching for it, and obviously on understanding and adapting to what fits your needs. Grit and will are definitely essential in the sourcing process. The ability to deal with frustration is key, since the top of the funnel is the part with the highest resistance. Especially in the beginning of the funnel, when you reach out potential candidates, you will see that the numbers you have to be resilient as fuck to be a sourcer. Using average market numbers, you would have to speak to between 16 to 23 candidates to move 1 qualified candidate to the recruiters. And in order to fill a position, you would have to talk to around 160 to 230 candidates to fill 1 position. Of course, those are average numbers, and you can do much better than that. In any case, in the average scenario, that would mean 229 no's for 1 yes. So grit and will are definitely a part of your job description, and very, very necessary for good mental health. Finally, last but definitely not least, focus on the end result. It is important to understand that for the company, in the end, your job only generates true value if the company ends up hiring the right person. So think of the middle of the process metrics, such as number of qualified leads, time to convert, or NPS as performance indicators. They indicate how well you're doing your job. But end result metrics instead, such as total number of hirings, time to hire, win rate, quality of hirings, are value indicators. They indicate the value generated through your job. Even though sourcers tend to work only on the first part of the selection process, they also should be aware and held responsible for the end result metrics, for the value indicators. So, to conclude, in recruiting, timing is everything. It is crucial to act quickly when you identify a promising candidate, as the best candidates usually are often in high demand and usually they're not available for too long. The quicker you can move through the recruitment process, the better your chance of securing the top talent for your company. But of course, you can always try to hack the system and understand how people usually take decisions. There is a pre-pandemic study that shows that people are usually more inclined to change companies when they're closer to their work anniversaries. So you know that it's probably a good way to approach these people. On the other hand, it is important to understand that not always there was something that you could have done better. I feel that retention is the connection of three feelings generated by the relationship between the company and the employee together. The employee must feel well paid, challenged, and happy or excited. If the company is doing their job to deliver those three feelings, there's little you can do, even being the best sourcer in the world. So don't feel pressure to do what is not possible to do. Every life has its own flow, yours and the candidates. And sometimes there's nothing to be done that could bring this person to your company at a specific time. So in any case, please remember to enjoy the sourcing journey as well. Obrigado. Thank you.
Kaio, so good, so good. I was taking notes. I was taking print screens. So that says a lot about the quality of your presentation again. Thank you so much, Kaio. Very insightful. For the people that are joining us live, please type in any questions or any comments that you have in the chat, because this is your time to ask Kaio any questions that you might have. Because honestly, Kaio has a ton of knowledge, and it's rare to see someone with such a different background work in recruitment and be so successful, and has skilled up Zoop massively. I do have a couple questions. Also, some of our audience asked a couple questions, Kaio. One specific question that came from Eric is, when you test hypotheses, what do you use as the benchmark for your null hypotheses? Is it the data set that you use as a zero hypothesis? So what he means, like what's the benchmark, or do you use external data sources as a benchmark?
Really, really good question. Honestly, testing hypothesis needs to be a decision made every day. Not everything needs to be tested. Some things are really obvious, and some things are already could be benchmarked with a peer company or someone that you know from the industry, and you know that went well at their company. You don't need to test on a small scale. You already know that it worked for them, so you don't need to do a small scale test and see if it works for you. If there's a high probability that it's gonna work for you, you don't have to do this first step of trying and testing. You can go directly to trying to scale. So this is a decision that you need to do on a daily basis. Usually we try to test on whatever you don't have any idea on the outcome or the output. So I don't know, I don't have any idea what's gonna happen. So I don't know if it's gonna go well. Yep. I don't know if anything or anyone have tried this before. I'm gonna test it on a small scale, on the smallest possible scale, to see what's going to happen. I think that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. In the framework of hypotheses, right? It sounds like you guys work on an agile way and that you are able to test hypotheses quickly. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that, also for our audience to understand on how you guys do that? Kaio,
sorry, I didn't hear it. Sorry.
No worries. So it sounds like that you guys work on an agile way. and that you work in short sprints, which enable you to test these hypotheses, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you guys do that exactly? And also for our audience that are not working with like hypothesis testing, how they can implement that in like a easy to implement way.
Honestly, as I'm usually very transparent, we've worked in a lot of different ways. Go horse, agile, no process at all. So when we had a growth marketing leader, we were very, very structured, and we had a spreadsheet every week. We needed to have two or three different hypotheses going on simultaneously. So we knew that we were learning through this moment.
Yeah.
Not all hypotheses take the same time, but ideally, we should not have two hypotheses that could influence their results. So let's say that we're doing two hypotheses on the same job position. There is a huge possibility that one's going to influence another. And obviously, if one influences another, we are not going to be 100% sure what's the proper result that came from each one
Yeah.
of the experience. So this is one of the ways that you need to be very aware and take care of. I think just to start, if you want to work on agile way, set some KPIs that you want to follow. So I want to keep two different hypothesis tests live every single week, and this should be enough for you to keep.
Yeah. Kaio? Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question.
I'm hearing. I'm listening
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
okay, great. So moving on to the next question from our audience, Maria de Los Angeles, Campos Penuela. Beautiful name. I hope we pronounce it somewhat correctly. She asked, how would you suggest improving value indicators when the end of the process depends on other people rather than the sourcer?
That's the
Great
hard part
question.
of being a sourcer.
Yeah.
That's the hard part of being a sourcer. You will probably never have uh, total responsibility for whatever it's the end of the process. But in the end, the value of your job will be the end of the process. So try to keep in mind what are the key points that will lead to a good result. Either if it's a good recruiter in your team that usually makes better than the others or works better than the other and have a bigger sense of urgency than others. Um, Honestly, most of the managers and most of coordinators and leaders tend to not measure sourcing with value indicators. They tend to measure sourcing with middle of the process metrics, which I think it's okay. But it is good for you as a sourcer to understand that whatever you're doing, it's only valuable when reach the ideal results that we've said before. It's not an easy question to answer,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think that gives you an idea.
But I think very variable because it's often also like what we as sourcers struggle with, right? We bring in all these amazing candidates and then no one gets hired and they're like, well, we're not hiring anyone for you guys. So what's the point of the work that you guys are doing? And we're like, well, you guys didn't follow up on the candidate or, you screwed up, like that's always a difficult position to be in.
There's also two possibilities that I was thinking when you're talking. The first one is to keep following with the recruiters and try to understand what exactly is going on after
Yeah.
that. You don't need to do it with every single different position, but just to have it in your mind what actually happens after that it's almost like a user experience job
Yeah.
description. Let me see what happens in real life. So this is a possibility, and the other one is trying to understand what you did not do well in the first part, because if this person is not going exactly through the process, it might seem the good fit for you but not exactly for the persons that are coming next to you. Because if it was the really exact ideal profile that this person were expecting for, probably this person would have moved very fast through the process. or even in the worst case scenario, the job position was not that urgent as you might expect it. So you probably should have prioritized another position instead of the one that you have worked on.
Yeah, yeah. There's a LinkedIn user that asks percentage intuition, especially for C-level positions. I don't fully understand that question. I don't know if you do, Kaio. Because if we don't, then I would like this viewer to clarify his question a little bit better. Unless you say, Kaio, oh, that's I completely understand what's meant with that question.
I would say how much of your intuition you use that for C-level positions. Honestly, I'm not a specialist for executive positions. We've structured a team for C-level positions at Zoop, and I had the pleasure to work with amazing people that taught me a lot, and I wasn't the one teaching them. So I can connect you with those amazing professionals that can talk with you about it.
Okay, great. I have a question on the propel case, right? Such a good case and very inspiring. So, a couple questions there. The engineers or the developers that you use, were they part of your growth team, or were these the actual hiring managers?
No, they were part of my team. We structured a secondary team on the talent acquisition team. Since I was a marketing manager before, I wanted to have a multidisciplinary team on our talent acquisition team. So we've split our structure into, we had I'm going to call it like pod, the recruitment pods, where we had recruiters, sourcers. We had actually data analysts there, but it doesn't really matter right now. And we had on the other side a talent hacking team, which had multidisciplinary skills working there. We had marketing people, we had data engineering people, we had user experience people, we had development, so the developers and engineers there. So we structured a secondary team to help development. This was very useful when we were hyper growing. Right now we don't have it anymore. We're not hiring so much, but when we were hyper growing, it was really, really useful. So that data engineer was working directly with talent acquisition, and it was reporting for the talent hacking manager, which was someone from marketing that knew the basic concepts of engineering and data analytics. So it was not someone cross-functional or reporting directly to the data manager or data director or whatever. It was working directly with recruitment, focused 100% in recruitment.
So, just from my understanding, right? So you had your recruitment pods, right? And then the second pod, that's where the engineers and developers were in. But these were developers that were actually building the product, but they also had a side function of helping you guys. Is that how I should see it?
No. They were 100% focused on doing things within the recruiting team.
Okay. So that's very interesting. You were probably one of the first where a developer is actually 100% dedicated to recruitment. I've rarely ever come across that.
At some point, I'm not gonna remember exactly the number, but we had more people that were not that were not recruiters rather than recruiters. We were trying to scale the automation of the process more than the manual side of the process.
So if you look then at this case, right, because there will be many people listening to this conversation where they're like, well, we're a small company, right, or we're not hiring 2,000 engineers. So how could they then like mimic something maybe by their own in terms of the setup of a propel case?
Honestly, the Casa de Papel was easy to do and did not take much time. We had the possibility to have a fully dedicated team, but it was not something that is specific operation. It was not something that would take a full-time job for a month, or no, it would take less than 15 to 20 minutes for the data engineer to do the scraping of a company. So in less than a week, I think we have mapped maybe 20 or 30 companies with half of their workload. So it was something that definitely, if they have these abilities and these capabilities within the company, even if they are working for the product or a data team, they could easily be helped by these people in their after hours or even during their work period.
Because what I found especially powerful is that you actually then looked at the list and then you looked at the profiles one by one and said, hey, these are the people that we should be reaching out, avoiding that big top of the funnel with a lot of irrelevant candidates in there, that you already pre-vetted actually these candidates based on their skills and their criteria. Do you feel though that that should actually be a sourcer's job, and like a developer shouldn't be on that side? Do you feel that the sourcer should be technical enough to like really make that assessment?
We that is a good question. We have tried to hire developers as recruiters. We
Yeah,
tried to find developers that didn't want to be developers and work with HR.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that didn't go well.
Oh,
We
I'm
tried
surprised. Yeah,
like 5 times. We've hired 5 developers and only one thrived. Only one of them did well on the position. He's still working with us. The other
yeah,
4 did not go well.
yeah,
So I'm not 100% sure why. I think it has mostly. I think that doesn't have to be with the idea of them being developers. I think it's more like there are not so many people. There are developers willing to work on HR, and therefore we were just saying, let's go. If you're a developer and you want to work with HR, let's come with us. It doesn't really matter if you fit perfectly to the job position. We want to try with you. So I think this is the main reason why it didn't work for us. But the thing is, I think when the sourcer can get the ability to talk with developers in a good level of technical skills, it can reduce the probability of error after the next steps. Because
yeah,
for us, being a consulting firm, technical skills, it's key. It
yeah,
doesn't really matter if you're really good on soft skills. You have to be good on technical
yeah,
skills. If you're really good on soft skills, it's a really good plus. But technical skills, it's a must.
yeah,
So this is gonna be something that can be a breakdown for the candidate. And a sourcer that knows what he's asking, and it's not just filling a blank page with some questions that he doesn't even know what to ask, it will probably get to shorten the time to analyze the possibility of this person becoming actually the right fit for the position. So I would definitely invest a lot in becoming more technical, or at least an understanding the concepts in a deeper level.
yeah,
Because I know what Kubernetes is, I know what AWS is, I know what Vue.js is, but do I know how they work together? Do I know how a DevOps engineer works directly with a back engineer? What do they do together? What is a Terraform technology? They need to understand it, and they need
yeah.
to know why they work together. And I think this will be a very good differentiator for someone that's working directly with tech recruitment. Obviously, not every single source will be a tech recruiter.
Awesome. Kaio, we're close to the end. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Definitely.
Kaio, how can people connect with you? How can people find you?
LinkedIn, Caio Jardim, as the name on the screen, probably.
Yeah,
You can find me there. Just add me. Let's keep in touch. Let's talk. I'm very open. Not the fastest one to answer. So if I take some time to answer, it's not personal. It's just that
yeah,
I'm not the best one to, to answer quickly.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Good heads up. Kaio, thank you so much for today, and again being one of our speakers. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to you, and also to learn some new facts. For the people listening and watching live, next week we're gonna have a very interesting speaker as well. Vanessa Raaf is coming all the way from South Africa, and she has a very personal story actually to tell. How she grew up as a white, privileged woman in South Africa during the time of apartheid, and how that has fueled her why she's so passionate about diversity and inclusion. And she will be talking about this next week. Vanessa is a phenomenal speaker. I had the luxury to meet her in person for the first time 2 weeks ago in South Africa, and she will bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of energy to the conversation. And it's something that you definitely want to watch. If you don't follow us yet, follow us on LinkedIn and on YouTube to make sure you stay updated. And I wish you all a very pleasant rest of your day or evening. And thank you so much for dialing in. And Kaio, we'll see each other soon. Thank you.